I have 12 properties now,
12 properties in your portfolio.
close to 7 million now.
Amazing.
No matter what, I'm going to make money on top of my investment. I've directed, I'm a screenwriter, I'm a writer, and I'm an actor as well.
That's why you're so well groomed today. You got the look.
That's what early retirement is all about, right? Retirement is not about sitting idle and
Being a vegetable.
definitely not being a vegetable. It's about doing the things what you love. And I see a potential way of retirement, early retirement, by doing a passive investments in property. The right time to buy a property was yesterday. You missed that. And the next right time is today.
We've got the honor of having Sundeep, one of our very valued customers, clients, and friends here at Tax. I just sincerely really appreciate you jumping on today, Sundeep, in this late hour of the day to really share with you. And of course, I've shared with you what the appeal is of this podcast. It's really reaching out to people, sometimes younger, but not always, that want to get their foot through the door and just start. And I'm sure you remember vividly when you first started your investing journey. And I think that story and that moment for you, that change in your life, I think would have a lot of appeal to people in the audience. And so I hope that today can hopefully enlighten them by just you sharing that part, if that's okay with you.
It's definitely an honor to be here, sharing my story with you, Tom. I came to Australia in 2004, roughly around 22 years now. I came with about $700 in my hand. I came to study here and a bank loan. That's how I started my journey here. And then my first property, I bought it about like 2009 sometime in Blacktown.
So that was a 5 years
After, yeah, right
away?
after
Yeah,
5
okay.
years, yeah,
Which is not too bad. And that's earlier on too. 2009 were early days.
But I have zero knowledge about property, no knowledge at all.
Why were you buying it then? What made you buy property?
Well, that was the days like, I don't want to pay rent. I wanted to buy my own and pay my own mortgage.
How do you know that? Okay, so you wanted to buy your own property so you could live in it or not have to pay rent to a landlord.
That's right,
You were
yes.
like, I want to be my own landlord.
100%.
I
Yeah.
want to own my own home.
Yeah.
What inspired that? Is that from a young age?
It was the young age, and I recently got a good job, a good pay scale. And I thought, this is the right time. I need to do an investment in somewhere. Like, I don't know anything. I don't invest in shares. I don't know anything about investment. All I know about getting my pay into my bank account. That's the only thing I know. So the first time I thought, I should do some sort of an investment. And I see that, the biggest outgoing for me is the rent in Sydney. So I thought, how should I go about it? So should I buy a place where my mortgage should be equal to my rent? So I was looking for investments in that time, about 2008, mid of 2008. I was looking for properties like apartments and townhouses and things like that. And I was living in south side of Sydney, and the properties were too expensive then. And my calculations were not, coming up where my rental expense should match with my mortgage. So that's when I moved to Western Sydney. And that time, Western Sydney was not growing, and people were talking about all sort of things about Western Sydney, No, you shouldn't be investing there. It's too much. It's not a good area to invest. No, it's not going to grow at all. And that is when my first foot, I went into invest in Blacktown for my first PPOR.
You didn't have a silver spoon. You came here with $700. All right, so everyone's dying to know. The audience is dying to know. You got $700. You can't go buy a property with us, Sundeep. What does Sundeep, a young, how old? How old were you then?
Basically, what happened then was like, I came to Australia as a student. I studied IT in here.
Yeah.
And then I got a job in IT. But then I always, since childhood, I always want to be an actor. I joined a film school to start training for acting.
Film
as well.
school,
Yeah,
nice.
that's
Yep.
right. Yeah, it's a short course. that I did.
Why film? Why film?
I've been always fascinated since childhood that I want to be an actor. But unfortunately, that's not a career that I could do back in India. So my parents thought, you have to go study and then you have to go back to...
That's why you're so well groomed today. Your hair and you got the look. Yeah, you still got it. You still got it. You're not doing it now, are you? The film. You're still in IT.
I still do both. Yeah.
You're still doing film. I love it. That's so good.
Yeah.
Tell us more about this film.
Yeah, I've done quite a few. I have done about 7 films so far, and then about 15 or so independent films. I've directed, I'm a screenwriter, I'm a writer, and I'm an actor as well. So most of the films I've released in theaters back in India. Particularly, these are all South Indian films. Yeah, I still managed to do both,
It's amazing. And of course, that's some natural talent that you still pursue today, even with your IT.
That's what my end goal is. That is what I need to retire early. That is what I am trying to do my property journey so that I can pursue my, film journey. So yes, and property is helping me to do that.
And you know what? That for somebody is the underlying passion, isn't it, to do something? Is that if you have loved something enough that you want to pursue it,
That's what early retirement is all about, right? Retirement is not about sitting idle and
being a
watching TV.
vegetable.
Yeah, exactly. Not be definitely not being a vegetable, right? It's about doing the things what you love. Is all about retirement. Okay, so if someone has a passion in music, they can go pursue that. Someone has a passion in scuba diving, they can do that. Everyone has different passions, right?
It
So
just
doing
allows you to
what they
pursue.
love and having freedom to do that, they need some sort of passive income
And
to do that.
for you, it's film, and it's not about, the money. It's just about doing something you love.
Yeah, that gives me freedom to do something I love. So yeah.
What's your biggest hit?
So far, nothing. So far, nothing. So most of them are released in theaters and they are in Amazon Primes and some Indian channels over there. But commercially, I haven't seen a successful journey as it. But as I said, it's like any other journey. Like you keep doing it, one day it will come to you,
You
right?
got to perfect the
Yeah,
craft.
yeah, exactly. You take the baby steps towards it, and you keep doing. Learn from your failures. You fail at it for 10 times, and eventually you will get there.
So, Sandeep, obviously you're doing the work that you love. Do you mind if you share with us the title of some of maybe a trailer on YouTube of one of the things that you're part of?
So the recent one I've done was Dimahi. It has about 1 million views in YouTube.
And how do you spell that? DI?
Dhimahi. It's a South Indian Telugu film. It has about over 1 million views. And before that, I've done a film called 7:11 p.m. It's a science fiction time travel based film. That has about 3 million views as well.
Guys, check it out. And of course, he'd love all the support. When you invested in 2009 and you had the thought, I'm going to invest in property, what was the pay scale?
Back then, I think 2008 and 9, I was about $80,000 in a year.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that time, it's a big money.
Yes.
So $80,000 is a good space scale. Like 100,000 is something that a manager role would get. So I started my journey in IT. I'm into testing, if you know about it, it's
Yes.
quality assurance.
And how much was the property you were buying then?
That time, the property was about 300K. It's a townhouse. It's a 2-bedroom townhouse. It's a decent independent townhouse in Blacktown. I kept it for about 2 years. And that is when the property boomer started in Australia. And until that time, no one was talking about property investments at all.
It was around 2010, wasn't it? That started to really snowball.
Exactly. So it started in 2010, and every friend of mine and every investor, and there's a lot of things that are going around. And if you know the suburb called the Ponds area, these people used to come and they used to tent up overnight to get a slot of land on the following day. If you remember those days, there's
Wow.
like hundreds of people waiting for their
I did
turn.
not know that. No.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the ponds, especially when the subdivisions
Correct.
were happening.
Exactly. So it
yeah.
was being developed by a guy called Landlord.
Yep.
So Lendlease was developing that whole estate. It's about like 2,000 acres or something.
And people were missing out because you have to do a ballot draw, right?
Exactly. People were queuing up, and that is when I saw this lot of demand for property. And I know nothing about property investments, how much we gain and how much is it going to happen. Because since I stepped into Australia in 2004, no one was talking about property at all. Because property was not something that, it kept on growing over the period of time. And it is only 2010, everyone gone for a like mad rush buying on properties.
Why Blacktown back then? Was it because that it was affordable?
It's affordable there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you looked at because you were renting at this time,
That's
and you
right,
thought,
yeah.
well, how do I get my repayment to match my rent?
100%.
Did it work? Did you find something?
Yes, it did.
And
Yeah.
so that Blacktown property, the 2-bedroom townhouse,
Yeah.
it was the right match.
Right match for me. And eventually, after I stayed in that property for about close to 2 years, and then my pay scale have gradually increased, and I moved on to a 100K package.
And your equity also increased as well, didn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
equity increased in. I was there for about 2 years, and the equity has increased about like $150,000. And then that is when I thought, everyone is moving to that area, the Ponds, Cofields, and Craigsville area. It's all new estates and new houses being built, and that is when I thought it's right time to move there. I didn't know anything about property. I just wanted to go and do something in my life, and it all happened like by destiny, not with any research or any knowledge. The level of knowledge, at least what I have now, I don't have anything at that particular time. I sold off this property in Blacktown, and then I moved to the Ponds area where I bought a property which is of 500 square meter land.
Through a ballot as well.
It's not through a ballot. It's not exactly in the Ponds. The suburb next to it called Scurfield.
Scofield.
Yeah. So I was actually looking, and that time Schofields is completely like farmlands. There's no properties, or there are no people living there, not many people living there. It's all acres and acres of empty lands and farmlands over there. But the Ponds, the difference between Ponds and Schofields, it's just a street away, these two suburbs. And then the difference of the same lot is $50,000 in Ponds to Schofields. Like for 500 square meter lot. Yeah, for 500 square meter lot, Ponds would cost you around like 380. At the same time, that Quakers, I mean, Scofields would cost you around 330 something. There's a $50,000 difference. But those days, $50,000 is a very big number. So I thought, okay, so that's a big number. You know, why not? You know, I'll move to Schofields. I mean, I don't know anything about Schofields. I don't know if it will grow. I don't know what is going to happen about futures. But cut short to 10 years later now, Schofields is a different zone now. You know, the median price in that area is 1.5 million. At that time, I bought it for like around, I mean, including the construction, I got it about like 700-800
And
grand.
very dense now, right?
It's very super dense.
Completely overhauled. It's
Yes,
a
yes.
residential area
Very,
now.
very high demand zone.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so I guess for you, you know, like I guess one of the things is you've always lived in the properties that you bought. And it's a real privilege, isn't it? That, and looking back now and knowing what you know now, it's a real privilege to be able to buy a place local to you. Like, I mean, if you're driving from where you are now, anyone listening to this now and drive half an hour and be able to buy a property there and live in it, and the rent, the repayment on that is close to the rent what you're paying up.
100%.
That's very rare.
Yeah, yeah. But those days are gone, right?
It is very tricky. It is very tricky. But hopefully you have some tactics for the listeners and the viewers out there, because the appeal of, I guess, this podcast has always been, what's the strategy now? What would a young Sundeep do? That's where we want to get to. And I don't know if we want to unravel that yet, or do we keep going with the journey to see where you got up
No,
to?
I'll reveal that. You know, see, the property, I mean, definitely we don't have a time travel machine to go back to 2009. So we are in 2025. We need to accept the fact. And the fact is, the property prices are keep going to continue to raise no matter what. There'll be cycles, there'll be upsides, and there'll be downsides. All that will be there. But eventually, the property prices are going to go up. This is going to happen.
Historically has.
Historically, it's been, and it's always been. I mean, considering the facts that, you know, the population that's going to come to this country for the next 10 years, it's going to be massive. And the rents have to grow according to the inflation. Like, you know, when I came to Australia first, you know, the box of eggs is like about $1 or something. Now it's about $5, you know. Same with rents. You know, when I came to Australia, I used to live in Asheville, and the rents is about like 220 something. Now, you know,
Forget about it.
Yeah. So eventually everything will go up. So does your property as well. So the right time to buy a property was yesterday. You missed that. And the next right time is today. If you're going to miss that, you're going to repent it.
That is quite the quote.
Yes.
The right
yes,
time is yesterday.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. I always tell people, you know, do your investments right, you know, PPOR or whatever it is, you need to start your property journey. This is the right time. You need to do it.
They say you got to time the market. And then of course on the contrary, it's like you've got to be, it's timing in the market. Isn't
That's
it?
right.
You've
Yes,
got to spend
100%.
time in the market
Yep.
to let the property accrue all of that equity.
Yeah. Tron, there's two kinds of people I've came across, right? You know, people who buy the properties and flip it like in 1 year or 2 years. And there's people who hold those properties for 20 years or so. People who hold those property for 20 years definitely going to make money. I'm not saying bad about people flip the money. I mean, flip the properties and make money. There are a lot of people, but back in those days, I still remember they used to purchase a land and the registration is going to take a year or so. So they used to pay 5% deposit and hold those lands. And then after 1 year, they used to sell it off for 100K profit or 200K profit. So they used to make quick money on that. But again, you know, I am not that kind of a person who want to flip it. I want to keep those properties for a longer time and chase the growth, the capital growth over the period of time. So that's what I chased first. So that is how I started my journey. So initially, I don't know nothing about the property journey, as I said. So I saw a few of my friends who are into real estate. They started buying properties, and then within no time, within 2 years, 3 years, they used to make money, a lot of money. And I see a potential way of retirement, early retirement, by doing a passive investments in property. I'm not very good with shares, so I have a very limited knowledge on shares. So I slowly started developing knowledge in the property areas, like, you know, what sort of a property to buy, why should we buy it, when should we buy it, how long we should buy it. I mean, not that I'm an expert in it, but to give you an example, I bought a property about in 2000 in Melbourne. So that is the time when Melbourne market was right in the peak. Right after that, I bought the property. The market has crashed and it went down. But the problem is, you shouldn't be scared at that time and sell off your property unless, you know, you can't manage that property, and then that's a different story. But panic selling is something that I should tell everyone not to avoid it. Okay, you should not panic when you can. So it's just a cycle. You need to wait for the cycle to go up again. It's now fast forward to 2025. Now everyone is talking about Melbourne, Melbourne, Melbourne. Yeah, everyone is investing there. At the same time, about a property in Perth, like about 2 years ago, and it has grown up like anything. No one has a crystal ball, right? Where to invest and what to invest and how to invest that. But you need to make sure that you are investing so that you are not pressured to sell off that property when a bad time comes. Bad time will come. The interest rates can shoot up. There might be a lot of things that can happen in the market, but the point is, can you hold off? Can you withstand your properties? So do you have the capacity to hold and to move on for that bad phase and to go into the good phase?
We've had that uplift in rates, and it was a lot of pressure on a lot of people. And some people have no choice but to sell, and some people have no choice but to live on very little in order to hold that property. And that's what it takes, isn't it?
100%.
Through a
Yeah,
downturn.
yeah, yeah. So every property and every person, every circumstance is different. So they need to assess their situation, probably the buyer's agent, financial agent, or accountant, whoever they have a close ties with, to get an understanding of what best suits them. So based on that, you need to plan your strategies.
Yeah, and so then the buyer today, I mean, the person that goes out there and invests in a property today, the first one anyway,
Yeah.
it's a very different landscape for them. How does someone that's young, how do they navigate through this, Sundeep? What's your recommendation now, knowing like what you know? Because obviously you've invested interstate, you've invested in more reasonable markets than Sydney. Talking about Melbourne, which is, I mean, not a lot more affordable than Sydney, but definitely slightly more affordable and definitely has legs in it because it seems like to be, like you said, where the market is moving. I mean, for a young person, how do they capitalize on this if they're a first timer? What are they doing here?
As I said, it's all about the personal circumstances. See, someone who has a limited pay scale. Okay, so there's two things, right? One is capital growth and the capital yield. So you can't have both. I mean, having both is a very, very rare and unlikely scenarios in 2025. Example, like you can go and invest in Melbourne today, but the problem is the cash yield is not that great. The rents are not that great, but then the capital growth is expected to be, in a good scenario at this point of time.
Rivaling Sydney.
Yeah, like same thing like Sydney. Okay, if you want to chase capital yield, like where the rents are high for your investment, in that case, your capital growth might not be too high. They will be limited. So where do you sit in that zone is very important, right? If you're a starter as an investor, so you can withhold your properties. Yeah, definitely go for properties like Melbourne. Or if you can't take the negative gearing or all these things, go for positive cash flows properties where you have to go to places like Townsville or Mackay, invest in
regional
apartments, regional
markets
markets where rental demand is quite high.
and it doesn't affect your borrowing capacity and also affordability and
Yes.
ability to hold depends on your ability to get a high yielding property,
100%.
right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
But as a smart investor, right, you need to have both of them in your portfolio. Like you have to have a balance. Like you need to go with the capital growth. At the same time, you need to have the yield as well. It has to be a balance. That is when you can continue a journey as a property investor for a long time, is my understanding. Yeah.
It's a nice to have a mixture of both,
Mixture
you
of
say.
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you can't have just one and not the other. Like, imagine that if you only want a capital growth, you won't be able to, bear that losses on a ongoing basis, on a yearly ongoing basis.
Which means that you got a lot of negatively geared properties.
100%, yeah.
And the negative geared properties means that it's chewing into your
Exactly.
cash flow. So it means whatever income
Yeah.
you're making per week,
Exactly.
it's taking a lot out of that just to make
100%.
repayments,
Yes.
expenses, overheads to hold that property.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so if you were starting again today in 2025, you would be looking at something like that. Your strategy would be, let's look at something affordable. Where would you go? You would go somewhere.
At this point of time, my eye is in Melbourne right now. Victoria is the key. Brisbane has hit 1 million mark, but the rental, I don't know, I mean, demand is not that high. I don't want to go there. I mean, there's still a lot of room in Brisbane, but then as an affordability perspective, if you have more than $1 million capacity, yes, obviously you can go there. But now, it's close to $1 million. Same with Perth as well. Perth is almost around like $700,000-800,000 for a median price at this point of time. And I've already got a property, so I don't want to go there. But I see the potential in Victoria right now is huge, where you get a property for $500,000. It's a capital city, and there's a lot of population growth that is expected in the next 10 years. And there's a lot of infrastructure development that is happening in that area as well. So my key would be like, I'm just eyeing on Victoria right now. Victoria.
Yeah, so you can still find properties for 500,000 in Melbourne. That's fantastic. Yeah, definitely.
There's a lot of good spots there, like, Western Melbourne area, Melton's, Tarneets and Werribee, and then Broadmeadow. Craigieburn, all these areas,
Yeah, and they're developing, aren't they?
Oh,
Like
there's a lot of
it's
development that is
opportunity.
happening. Yeah, yeah, yeah. As I said, if you want to flip it, like if you want to see money in 2 years, no, I don't think so. Those areas are right. So it might work or it might not. But if you want to keep these properties for the next 10 years, you won't go
You
wrong.
won't go wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
Love
that's
it.
what I'm saying.
And so then if you're buying something that's interstate as a first property, it means that you don't have a choice but to either relocate there or then to look at options like live at home if you can, or otherwise rent, right? Somewhere that's affordable. Is that the strategy that you would apply today if you were a young man doing your first property again? Not that you're not
Yeah, man.
young, I mean
See,
just
at this point of
younger.
time, I can't afford a property in Sydney. It's way too high. The median price sits at 1.5 million. And in particularly in Western Sydney, townhouse is about like 1.2, 1.1 million. And the apartment is costing about 800, 900,000. It's way too expensive. I will move to Melbourne. I will move to Melbourne and buy a property there now.
Save all that
All that,
CGT.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
And what's the rule now? I think CGT is you live there for a certain amount of time. Is that right? Like,
Yes, I think 6 months, right?
yeah, 6
Yeah.
months you can live there in a property and you receive 6 years to be exempt as an owner occupied. So if you live in a property for 6 months, and even if you rent it out for the next 5.5 years,
I believe it's all
you get
over
a
Australia,
capital
isn't it?
gains. Yeah, I think it's all over Australia. As long as you live there, that's the main thing, main residence. So that's a little tip there. Not that it's tax advice, but definitely
Exactly.
guys look into it. But yeah, definitely it was a good strategy that worked for you back then. If the opportunity arises where people really want to get ahead, living in that property is going to be a no-brainer. And somewhere that's got massive capital growth like Melbourne, it makes sense, isn't it? But of course, not everyone's lifestyle allows for that because end of the day, it's about lifestyle. It's about compromises. And when you make these compromises and lifestyle, like, I mean, everyone here loves to live in Bondi, but it's just not feasible, isn't it? And so sometimes you just have to live in Blacktown. You just have to live in somewhere that's a little bit more
Wherever is affordable for you guys.
affordable.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
but there has obviously huge tax benefits in tax breaks in investing and then also owner occupying that property. So that's definitely something that people should be looking out for. But where do you go? You end up buying these properties, right? And you're holding you sold your first property in Blacktown. You bought the second property, which you still live in today.
That's right.
And then where did you go from there? What sparked the interest?
But as I said, like, I have no clue about investments at all. I don't know what to do. So I came to a certain, so all I was doing was clearing off my mortgage all the way from the day I bought my PPO over. Every month I'm getting my salary and clearing off my loan. But when I saw my friends, few of my friends, who's buying multiple properties, and I see a lot of potential. They are like flipping in 2 years and gaining about $300,000. That is when my interest started to into the property market. And my first property, investment property I bought is in Melbourne. 4 years back, I bought like 2020. Yeah, 20. So looking at my friends, their journey was so inspiring to me. I bought my first investment property. And then right after it, like within 2 months, the property market has crashed. I said to myself, what am I doing? Everyone is making money. I'm losing money here.
Just your luck.
Yeah, just my luck. So, but I didn't stop there.
Did you sell?
I didn't.
Good.
I
Yeah.
didn't.
So you held on. That's the
I held on to
lesson.
that
You got to
property.
hold on.
Yes, yes, I have to hold on. That's the key. That's what I learned. No matter what I'm on, I'm going to make money on top of my investment. That's my thinking. Okay, I'm not going to lose money on any investments I do. I'd rather wait. Okay, so be it. Patience is the key in investments. Okay, in any investments for that matter, even for shares or anything.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. Over the long run, you win by the average.
That's right. And then the second property, I think after like 1 year, I bought my second property in Perth. Then I saw money after 6 months, it went on like 10% increase in Perth market. And that is when my interest, when you see money in your investments, your interest grows further. Okay, so that is when I started doing a lot of research on properties, where to buy and where to hold and how much I should invest, how much I should invest so that my serviceability will keep continuing so that I can keep buying more properties. So that is when I met a friend of mine who is a buyer's agent. And then he actually guided me buying some of the properties in the regional areas. And then the next property I bought was in Townsville. And then I bought another one in Mackay. I bought one in Foster. And then came back to Melbourne. I bought a few apartments over there. Like within like every 6 months period of time, I kept buying properties as long as the bank is servicing. And most of these properties are doing well in terms of capital yield. Most of them are apartments and some of them are individual properties. And the last one I bought is in Melbourne again in Tarneet, and then another one in Perth. So yeah, that I kept doing it, but my goal is to hold them for like next 10 years and see what is going to happen. Yeah,
Yeah, lovely, lovely. And it's obviously to this date, like 2025 now, what is it, 5 years since you started your investing
that's right.
journey
Yeah,
with since Melbourne.
yeah.
Has that gone well for you? What's
Definitely. So, as I said, Perth has gone well. Melbourne is picking up. All my other investment properties are picking up. I believe the next 4 years is going to be very good in terms of property market
Yes.
with interest rates coming down, and 2026, 27, 28 is going to be crazy. I can't foresee the future at this point of time, but I believe by that time all my properties would be in a position they all will be positively geared. Right now they are not. Most of them are not. Some are there, but then eventually most of them will be positively geared within the next 3 to 4 years, and that is when the burden on me will be very less.
How do you reduce the pressure when it comes to positive gearing and trying to get that positive gearing on the properties? Is it through rent increases or through paying down these loans? How does it work?
It has to happen, right? I mean, you have to pay off these loans, but the rents will keep on going. But identifying the right property which pays you the right amount is the key here. So, as I said, you can't chase both. You need to understand the dynamics of your property portfolio to see at this current point of time what you need. You can't keep on adding properties where it is only a capital growth property. You can't keep on adding properties where they're only positively get cash yield properties. You need to have a balance of both. So that is when you need to steer yourself to see, put yourself in the right position. That's what I believe. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a really important message there is to have this balanced portfolio that doesn't really, because really investing for one and not the other can really ruin your
Exactly. Yeah.
ability to buy more,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
can cap you because then you're now just outlaying money just to hold these properties and you're living a very unreasonable
A lot of pressure
lifestyle.
that'll be sitting on top of your head, if you keep on investing in the capital growth properties, because you have to put yourself in a situation where you have to pay a lot of money every year that is going out of your pocket.
Yes, yes. And there's a lot of sacrifice that comes with that and unsustainable as well.
Absolutely.
And so at the end of it, Sandeep, like you're now obviously, how many properties in your portfolio?
I have 12 properties now.
12 properties in your portfolio and 11 of those are investments.
Yes,
You
that's
can only live in one in Australia, or does a man need to only have one property in Australia? Of the 12 properties, what's the size of the portfolio? What's the value of the portfolio now?
they're about close to 7 million.
Amazing, amazing. So that's something you've amassed in 5 years.
That's right. Yeah.
I guess the key question everybody's asking, like, to get to $7 million worth of properties in the period of 5 years, what does it take? What is the mindset? If you can sum it up, Sandeep, for the audience, what is the mindset it takes to get to this position in your life?
You need to take risk, calculative risk. Risk. I mean, everywhere you invest, there is some sort of a risk that is associated with it. So, calculative risk is something that assessing the situation. As I said, if something goes wrong, will you be able to stand, or will you going to lose? So that's what you need to assess. So before buying, like, if interest rates goes to 7% or 8% or 10% in the future, can you hold off these 12 properties and you keep continuing your journey as a property investor? So these are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. Okay. So if you have answers to these questions, I think managing property portfolios and continuing this journey is much easier rather than blindly buying properties, and then that is not sustainable for a long time period.
Great. So were you always this confident in your decision-making process? Because it seems like you really know what you want. Or does it come with time?
No, it comes with the failures that you do. As I said, my first investment property, I lost money. Okay. So when I lose money, all my senses come and tell me that, what you have done,
You reflect.
yeah, it reflects, it says that, no, you have done something massively wrong. Everyone is making money in this. Why did you do this poor investment? So then I've learned, I've researched a lot, and then I want to succeed in it. And then so I keep investigating, reading a lot of property updates and all these things. And slowly, it's a knowledge that I gained over the period of time, one after another, failure after failure, failure after failure. Yeah. So then, slowly you understand the dynamics of it and how it works. And then slowly, once you start seeing some money in it, then you gain confidence and repeat the same thing over the time again and again.
And for the viewers out there and the listeners, what resources were available for you in the history of you investing? What really made a difference for you? Where do you go to find out the right resources? Because obviously there's a lot of noise out there in the marketplace, right? Especially Facebook and social media. Where do you go to?
That's a very tricky question, Tran, because every question that you might have, you put yourself in social media saying that, is Melbourne the right time to invest right now? If you put this question, there'll be people fighting in the comment section some saying that it's the right time, some saying, no, Melbourne, you shouldn't be investing in Melbourne. Any question you type in about property, you have mixed reviews, anything for that matter.
Because it's the future, right?
Yeah, no one have a crystal ball. That's a problem. If anyone have a crystal ball, they would buy it. And no one has a crystal ball. It's all about taking calculative risks. Okay, so no one knows anything. We all have to rely on data, and then the past data, and then this data. This data is available everywhere. The charts and the historical data in Australia property market is available everywhere. But you can't 100% rely on this data because future you can't predict another COVID, or you can't predict another boom or anything for that matter. So how do you predict them? You can't. So things can go anywhere, any shape, but then you need to accept all that if you want to continue your journey. So yes, the data, the past performance in the Australian market, the real estate market, it gives you some sort of an idea where to put yourself, what sort of properties that you need to buy, what are the areas that you should consider buying. Yes, that will give you some sort of an indication, but that is not 100%, I would assume. Yeah, that gives you about like 80-70% of confidence level, and then the rest leave it to the future. Let future decide what is it going to happen.
Do you have like a call, like some advice around, or even some guidance around what makes your success? Because obviously you had some friends that were buyer's agents.
That's right. Yeah.
You have obviously people that help you out with finance. And what is it that people need to have on the side to make sure that they're going through this journey and it's all working for them, rather than people selling you something that's wrong, like they're misinformed? What is it that's really made a difference in your property investing journey that's made you successful?
Honestly, Tron, every buyer's agent is different, right? Everyone has their own strategies and things on how they think the property market will work. Okay, but you need to have some sort of an understanding even before entering into the property market to understand what the dynamics are about. Like someone says, go and invest in Brisbane right now, 1 million, and it'll grow in value in like 10 years. Definitely it will increase. But the point is, will you be able to hold off that property for the next 10 years is the question. Or you buy a property in Townsville for about 300,000, a townhouse for 300,000. Will that give you an enough capital growth over the next 10 years? So you need to ask these questions to yourself. So this is what I'm saying, right? The buyer's agent, all my friends, buyer's agent, financial advisors, they can advise you based on the situation, but you need to think about yourself. Is that something that you can afford at this point of time? Or is that something that is the right move that you should be doing right now? So these are the questions that you need to ask yourself.
And you're willing to sacrifice for that long, because capital growth is something everybody wants.
Yes, exactly.
But at what cost?
At what cost, yeah.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Anything you wanted to share with the audience today?
Yeah, property journey is quite fascinating. Once you start seeing money in that, you keep on chasing that. You keep on buying more and more and more and more properties. It's interesting how things are shaping up in Australia right now, because I regret actually. I should have done this way long back. I only started this 5 years back, but I feel that I should have started way long back. But I tell everyone 2025 is the right time for everyone.
And so where's the end goal for you, Sundeep? Where does you go from here after having 12 properties? What's the end goal?
Well, for me, right, chasing the passive income, and I wanted to retire early in life and do things what I love. And I see property investment is one of the key investments that can help me to reach that position. So I keep continuing to do that. And I wanted to retire in the next 10-15 years and then enjoy my life.
And what is that? And then, so is it a number of properties for you, or a certain number of value that you're looking for to achieve
Yeah, I mean,
it?
see, as long as as I said, like as long as I can hold off that property, before purchasing that property, I assess my situation. Anything can happen in future. Can I hold off this property, or will I be able to sell it? These are the questions that I have. If I can be in that situation where I can hold this property for at least next 5 years, I will take that property. If I say, no, I can't, I won't be able to, there's a lot of outgoing that is going to happen from this property and I can't handle this, and I won't be able to get a loan for a next property, no, then this property is not for me.
If it's going to burn you, this last one, then it's best to avoid it. Calculated risk.
If I buy a property, I will think that, if I can hold off at least for 5 years, then I'll buy it. If I can't, I'll leave it.
That's great. Great information. great support, great mentorship for others looking to invest themselves, to give themselves that little bit of a test to see if they can meet that Sundeep eligibility test, whether they can last with this property for 5 years and hold.
Now, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, well, please. Yeah, please.
So you seeing a lot of properties, in terms of, you've been working with a lot of clients, particularly property investors. So what is the common thing that you've been seeing, because you're doing the accounting for all of them, all the tax depreciation reports. So what sort of properties that you've been seeing most of the people are investing these days?
And you know what is the most common trait I see people investing is, one is they follow the news. I think it's very common that some of the things that you speak about resonate really well with the common investor, is that investors flock to where the news is. And I started this in 2015, Brisbane.
Yeah.
It was
Massive,
the hottest thing. And back then, average house prices were somewhere around 400 to 500,000, and now they're at $1 million. Right, 10 years later. And then the next thing was Perth.
Yeah, but Brisbane is one market I couldn't get hold of property, because I couldn't get hold of a property without a buyer's agent. And then I lost a property. And same with Perth. I said to myself, no, I'm not going to do this, so I will go to a buyer's agent, pay him whatever it is, I'm going to secure a property then.
And it's a no-brainer. And it's been that way because that's where the market is. And of course, where there's a lot of interest, there is a lot of potential for capital gain, because that builds competition, right? And that seems to be what's happened. But one thing that's really interesting that I can share with you, Sundeep, is people after buying residential, they then start to look elsewhere for really more risky, potentially risky investments, but also stable. And commercial is somewhere where I find that people invest for a certain amount of time in residential. They eventually start to veer into commercial because it's an uncharted territory. There's less players in the market. The demand is not as crazy as residential. There's less of it for sure, but certainly that's where I find the very fluent investor is veering into when they have a certain number of residential. And I think it's all to do with experience, because I think, well, why manage 10 properties here when I can buy one very expensive commercial property relative to the metrics and what the numbers say, but you could get 5%, 6% yield on a big commercial and have maybe 6 different tenancies in that one building. And that will then spread the risk, because that's the same risk as you carry in a residential. You got 6 properties, you got 6 potential vacancies. Well, they can get this over here in one transaction for a commercial shopping center or shopping village. And so that's the type of thing. So if you're asking me what the trend is, this is what I find the trend to be.
So a lot of people are moving to commercials now.
It's always been a case, but only for a certain type of investor who's had a lot of experience in residential and has the legs. When I say the legs, I mean by the financial capacity to now buy more in commercial.
Yes.
And it seems to be natural. So yeah, that's something I had to share.
So which state more people are buying nowadays?
It very much still, because we're on the back end in depreciation, you have a lot of investors that are buying in Perth. We do get a very even spread of Adelaide, Perth, and Brisbane, but for sure, there's a very prominent market in the Townsville, Mackay, all those regional markets. They're still very popular because it brings about affordability, and there's always this market for affordability, is what I think. But yeah, I just, I'm really grateful to hear your journey and the ability to share. I think there's some really good gems that you've shared with us, and I think a lot of people can get some value out of this. So again, I thank you for your time today,
Thank you so much. Thanks.
It's a real pleasure having you here, and of course, we thank you for everything, for your support, for one as a customer and a dear friend to Tax, but also coming today. It means
thank
a lot.
you so much. I hope I make some difference in someone's life now.
For sure.
Property journey. So nice talking to you.
Likewise.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.